This episode of Fuel for the Soul is powered by ASICS. Head over to ASICS.com and sign up for a one ASICS account. It's completely free, and when you sign up, you will receive 10% off your first purchase. You'll also gain access to exclusive colorways on ASICS.com, free standard shipping, special birthday month discounts, and more.
Hi, this is Thomas with Believe in the Run.
And this is Meghann with Believe in the Run.
And this is Meghann with Featherstone Nutrition.
I'm trying to think of something clever to do with feathers today because AKA feathers, but you know what? That's all I got. You got anything good, Meg? You got something like AKA feathers or nothing?
No.
All right, then that's
Are you guys drained from the 4th yesterday? Like, did the 4th just suck all
bit.
that energy out of you?
I think it's more like the past week.
We sucked a lot of
energy gone, but we're gonna liven up for the show for the people.
Oh yeah, 5-hour energy if I had one.
Where's Robbie when you need him? You know he's got a whole fanny pack full of them.
Yeah, you should probably just ask him for one right now. Anyway, you are listening to Fuel for the Soul, the podcast where we talk all things nutrition and hydration and how it affects performance. We have several listener questions to dive into today, but first, we just want to remind everyone about a couple fun things happening this week, because this episode will air July 18th. We have our 2 hydration stops coming up.
2.
Baltimore and Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City. I'm your hype man.
Baltimore will be July 20th.
That's the one.
Also a /grit party here. We will have shoes to demo. There will be shirts, CLA hats. There will be scratch products like there is at all of these. And then we're going to do a run.
Mobtown beer.
Mobtown's going to provide some beers.
And there's going to be some cool people there other than Feathers and Meghann, who obviously are the coolest. They built a whole hydration tour and left all the other cool people off, including Kafuzi. And there's a couple other special guests that are probably coming that I can't even mention. You listen to Patronus.
It's going to be a banger, guys. Come to Baltimore. Book your flights.
It'll be fun. You'll get to see the headquarters here. We're going to have people from ASICS. There's going to be shoe demos. There's going to be prizes. There's going to be CLA hat giveaways. It's going to be bumping. But that's not Oklahoma City, and that is not Austin. Those are the first 2, right?
No, so those already happened at this point when this airs. But after Baltimore, Meghann and I are heading to Oklahoma City on Saturday, which is July 22nd. We'll be doing a run that starts at 6:30 in the morning. I think we're doing a longer run. I think it might be like close to 2 hours or something like that is what they said.
What?
So yeah, we'll get real nice and sweaty. Again, tons of scratch products. We'll have water bottles, t-shirts. So come and see us for sure.
I have to say, I've never been to Oklahoma City, and I really don't know much about it, but more people are reaching out, saying that, Oklahoma City is going to be the jam. So, I mean, I can't wait for them to prove it to us.
That's one of our highest RSVPs right now, is Oklahoma City. Yeah.
I'm like, is it because there's nothing to do in Oklahoma City? Or is it because you guys are that popular in Oklahoma?
I think we're a huge deal.
We're that popular. We're kind of a big deal, Thomas, in case you forgot.
I'm finding out, man. People are stopping by the house. They're not. Where's Feathers? All the time. They think we live here.
We totally blew everybody's cover when we put this on YouTube because people were like, "Oh wait, you're not in the studio with them," and I'm like, "I'm so glad that this was so seamless. You thought that we were until now, but the secret's out." Gigs up.
I do think it would be more fun if you were here.
It would.
Well, our next recording will be together. So look at that.
Here's the thing I think should happen. Why Ohio? Why not?
Because I can see
the family is there.
Parents' house from my window right here, and they watch my children for me.
Well, you know what? They can stay in Ohio. You can come here.
Oh, I thought you were going to pick them up and bring them with me. Just transplant.
Yeah, you could. I mean, it would work. Yeah. Anyway, so let's dive in because, you guys got to start getting ready for hydration tour. So we better get this podcast recorded.
Yeah, so Meghann and I both raced recently. And I know, Meghann, you got some questions on IG about fueling.
You can't say IG on a nutrition
Instagram.
podcast. Yeah.
Why?
Their IG track.
GI? Are you?
That's it.
Okay.
Oh, GIIG. Mm-hmm. Got it. Totally. Mm-hmm. I love it.
Confusing. So,
some other
okay,
people
you raced an 8K, you full on won it. Talk to us about how you fueled for that.
Yeah. So everybody was like, oh, Meghann, how did you fuel? Right? Like people want to know. So first and foremost, we don't carb load for short events, 5K, 8K, 10K. We don't need to carb load. There's no evidence to support that races significantly under 90 minutes need carb loaded for. So did not do that, right? But it's hot outside. And most of us are focusing on some shorter distance races this summer, and it's freaking warm, right? So we want to make sure that we're going into these events very well hydrated. So even though they are shorter, let's make sure that we're drinking enough, we're increasing our sodium the night before, maybe we're even hyperhydrating even though it's a shorter race. If we have a warm up, make sure we have a bottle of Scratch or something waiting for us to drink a little bit right before the race. So hydration is going to be a huge thing, right? I also try to get people to eat like they would before a long run, before a short race, because most likely you're warming up, then you're going to race, then you're going to cool down. So don't think you need less fuel beforehand. Just do whatever works for you before your long run and it'll be beneficial. And then after your warm up, take a gel. Take a gel 15 minutes before the start because it takes exactly 15 minutes for most gels to hit our bloodstream. Since it's a short race, we want to kind of cue it up so that it's hitting literally as we're starting so that we have that extra burst of energy, especially like we were saying, if you've warmed up, you've kind of burned through some of the glucose that you've got in your bloodstream from breakfast. So it gives you kind of that extra hit to really get after it.
I got some secret tips.
I love it.
So, okay, first off, Meg's race that she was doing, it was like 70 something degrees, 77 or something. What was it at the start?
Yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 75.
So we brought a Yeti and I brought ice cold water and ice cold stuff. She also packed in her protein shaker for after the run. So you were sweating, like we talk about needing to be hydrated. You were sweating standing still before you did your warm up.
Yeah, it was one of those where the dew point was like 71 or 73 or something like that. And so, I mean, you walk out in that and you just immediately start sweating.
Yeah.
And in fact, I still don't think I'm rehydrated. I'm still trying to catch up here. But yeah, definitely hydration, super key.
Yeah. Well, that was similar weather to the 10K in Boston, right? Wasn't it like
Yeah,
70
it was slightly
and 70
worse.
dew point or something? Was it
Yeah.
worse? Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Slightly worse, and it's a hillier course.
It was really, really
I saw
rough.
some cash money coming out of that envelope from you taking second, though.
$200, just like that.
Wait,
Stop.
Meg, did you win any money for your 8K?
Heck
What is
no,
an 8K?
man.
Is that 5 miles?
It's just
miles?
under 5. It's like 4.96 or something. No, I got an empty growler. It's back here on my shelf. Yeah, there was no beer in it, but yeah. No cash money, just a tape.
200 is pretty good. A lot of people are suggesting that Meghann use it for horse betting.
Oh, 100%. Straight into FanDuel.
All right.
Anyways.
Anyways, let's actually talk about nutrition things here. Meghann, you did not make it to Boston with us for the research lab stuff that we did, which was devastating. But
She
while
got
we were
some
there,
clothes.
they were handing out a bunch of this fast food gels, and I know that they shipped them to you. Have you been trying them?
So I did try one on my long run. Got one right here. Actually, that's not the one I tried. I tried the green one because it had a little bit
Wait,
of
isn't
caffeine
this the
in it.
same thing they gave you?
Yeah.
Okay.
They put some in, some carb boxes at Boston, but I didn't try it then because we were all racing and we weren't trying new things, right? But I think this brings up a bigger point before we chat about this is a lot of people who have their race nutrition really dialed in and maybe they're using a product that's fairly expensive. They're like, Meghann, what do I do over the summer, So I'm totally fine if you know what works for you for a race day to just make sure we're fueling well and we can change up the products. We can use different things over the summer. We don't have to stick to, for example, Morton if we don't feel like paying that much or we need something with more sodium and then, 6 weeks out
some
from
variety.
training. Right. 6 weeks out from training, let's switch back to what we're going to do on race day to get used to it but like at this point in the summer, if we want to play with taking chews or taking different gels or different hydration, like I'm totally fine with that. If you know what works for you, right? Sometimes we're figuring out what works and that's a little bit of a different story, but, so I know it works for me. So I was like, I'm going to try one of these. So I took one of these in the middle of, my long run this weekend because it has 200 milligrams of sodium, which is not too shabby, like we always say like a higher sodium gel is 200 milligrams. So I liked that it had that. But the one thing that kind of stumped me about it, that's unlike a lot of other gels, is it has galactose syrup in it, which is, so getting dumbing down the science
Did
a
you
little
say
bit.
galactose?
Yeah. So there's three.
Galactose, like. Okay.
Yeah.
Just like galactic.
Yeah, a little bit. It's from outer space or milk,
Okay.
or one or the other.
Okay.
But so there's 3 monosaccharides. There's fructose and glucose, which we know about, but then there's also galactose, but it comes from milk mostly. So most people are like, oh, whether I'm vegan and staying away from dairy or I'm lactose intolerant, like I don't think anyone has tried to use this sugar in a gel before. To my knowledge, they're the first ones who have put it in there. So they did put some lactase in there so that if anyone is lactose intolerant, they'll be fine. They can still digest it. But it is different, right, than any other gel on the market because they are using fructose, glucose, and now this galactose. So of course I had to look up, like, is this potentially better? And what it looks like is, we've talked before about how we have different transporters for carbohydrates. So that's why like a Morton gel has some fructose and some glucose, because we absorb them differently so we can absorb more energy while we're running. It looks like galactose is absorbed the same way as glucose. So I don't know if it technically is like, oh, you get so much more energy from these gels. To me, it's a different option for a higher sodium gel. And I thought the yuzu one, which kind of is like a lime, I thought it was good. Like I would use it again.
Why would it, like, what if I had that may have galactose in it?
Milk. So galactose plus glucose is lactose in milk. So it's just like individual sugars that combine to make others. Are they sweet? Yeah, it was sweet, but not like as sweet as a Morton.
No, is galactose in something else? Like has it been used as a sweetener in something that
I doubt it, honestly. I can't think of anything it would be added to. Yeah.
Except for this.
Mm-hmm. Right. So it's like very different than anything else out there. So I don't know.
All right. Taste-wise.
Not a good or bad thing. I tried their chews and I did not care for the chews. I did not care for the flavor. But this gel, I didn't mind at all. You could kind of taste the saltiness of it. Like it definitely tastes different. And the girl I was running with, I was like trying to put my finger on what it tasted like, and I like could not figure out how to describe it while I was running. But definitely kind of a little bit more sour and maybe not quite as sweet. Yeah, and really thin, like maple syrup thin.
Oh, I think I would like it a lot then, because I don't like the thick and I don't like the sweet.
Okay, let's chat about a listener question here. This is from Catherine.
What's up, Catherine?
She said, y'all have to talk about this Ketone IQ stuff on Fuel for the Soul. Snake oil, garbage water, miracle. Sara Hall is repping it. I have so many questions.
Interesting.
Okay, so Meghann, Ketone IQ, I've seen them show up in the Instagram feed. I also saw Sara Hall repping them. So yeah, I also have all the questions.
I do. And you know, ketones have been around for a little while in the performance nutrition area, and we have had some questions pop up here or there. So I'm like, all right, we got to tackle this time. So
wait, what is a ketone?
Okay, that's a great place to start. So we know we have energy sources when we are running. We've talked a lot about that here. That the higher intensity we are training at, the more carbohydrates we burn, but we're always burning some fat. So I think everyone who listens to the show probably knows when we are running, we are burning either carbohydrates or fat for fuel. So those are the two things that we're using, right, to keep running and run at certain intensities and certain paces. Well, a ketone is also a type of fuel for our body. So if the thought here is we're adding a third type of fuel in there. So we would have carbs, we would have fat, and we would have ketones. So typically, when we are eating a well-balanced diet, none of us are producing ketones. So you might have heard of ketones from like a ketogenic diet or from an Atkins diet when we are eating super, super low carb and our body has no carbs left to use for fuel. It starts to create ketones as a byproduct for fuel from fat metabolism. So we're not only burning fat if we're not eating carbs, but we also have these ketones that are taking a step back, like our brain uses carbs for fuel. We've talked about that. Like our brain's preferred fuel source is carbs. So if carbs aren't there, our brain is running off of ketones. So you've probably heard as ketones for fuel, but like we said, if you're eating carbohydrates, if you're eating a balanced diet as a runner, you don't have ketones available as fuel. So what they're proposing is that if we continue to eat normally, we're not going into ketosis, right? We're still eating carbs, we're still burning some fat and some carbs while we're running. If we add ketones as another fuel source on top of this, could that improve our performance? So what they're saying is that Ketone IQ in particular, is that it could help you go harder, bounce back faster, and perform at your peak, is kind of what they're saying from a performance standpoint. But then it goes a step further and also says it helps control your appetite. It helps you stay focused. You have more stable energy. Like, it's really like touting that these ketone supplements are all encompassing of like everything fatty out there that we could potentially be doing from a nutrition supplement.
Wow.
So
Exactly.
It must be awesome.
They must be phenomenal.
I mean, does it work? Does it do anything?
So I'm not slugging back ketones. I'm not convinced that ketones are the addition that we need here. So why, right? Like, why am I not there yet? So first and foremost is the research claims from a performance standpoint that ketones could provide that extra energy. So scientifically speaking, like we were just saying, we're running on carbs, we're running on some fat. Why not throw some ketones in there and have some extra energy while we're training, right? So like the science behind it sounds fairly legit. And then they do claim that ketones also could be a more efficient energy, like some researchers do. And then other ones say they might spare carbohydrates. But of course, we're like, wow, these are like some pretty serious claims, because we know if we could spare carbs a little bit and have better performance and have more glycogen at the end of a marathon, we've always talked about how that would be wonderful, and then we could hold paces. So when you really dive into the research, there's less than 15 studies, like legit well done studies on ketones specifically for athletic performance. There's a ton of research on ketones in different disease states and whatnot, but like specifically speaking to endurance runners, there's like 12 studies. So there's not a ton of research yet. And what we're finding as we review that research is that the claims or the thought behind the science is not showing up as actually that beneficial when we are researching this. So what they're finding is maybe 3 to 5% of the energy we're using is from ketones when we're taking it. So if you think about that, that's a very minimal percentage of additional energy that we're adding in. So that might be part of the reason we're not seeing a huge change in performance. But then some studies were actually showing that it impaired performance. So that glucose sparing concept that we talked about. So if we're preferentially using ketones, those aren't that fast fuel like carbs are. So that we're actually seeing that some paces were declining for people towards the end of exercise because they were using ketones instead of carbs, and that's not as fast of a fuel. So I think we're in this spot where like maybe there was one research study that was like, ooh, this is fascinating. And if you think about it, it's extra fuel. That's really neat. But we're just not quite there yet seeing any type of benefit. Part of it is there's different types of ketone supplements. So maybe that needs weeded out. So I'm not saying that we're never going to find a benefit in all this, but I think right now the research is not supporting spending $120 on ketone supplements. I would rather just you eat enough carbohydrates and go train hard, perform hard, recover hard, and rinse and repeat.
I mean, that's the thing that it comes to my mind. It's like, okay, it's almost like the Morton has that like bicarbonate mixture.
Yeah.
They're saying it could increase performance by 1%.
Right.
In the top athletes. So this and the ketone thing again, and in that particular case, I feel like if we're talking about a minuscule difference, but a substantial financial difference.
Right.
Also, the fact that it could decrease performance right there, like,
Right.
I'm out. Like, that's,
Right.
I'm good. I don't need to test that.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And it's funny you brought up the bicarb thing, Thomas, because the one study that did show benefit on, you know me, I was like looking through them all, reading like the excerpts from them. The one study that did show benefit combined ketones and bicarb. So again, like you're saying, was there a synergistic effect, or was it just the bicarb that was helping, or was it the type of ketone? You know, you can't really compare that. So it's funny I do see the same type of people using both of those.
Well, I think it's people that are looking for any edge that they can get. But the crazy thing is, like, I do believe that there is a power in the placebo. And if you do go spend $120 on a 3-pack, and each one has 10 doses and stuff, and you go out and you're exercising, and normally you would slow down or, maybe lighten your effort when you're getting that, or you think to yourself, oh, I've got my ketones in there, I can probably push a little harder with that. That maybe that's what you're paying for. And if some people, if that does it, I think that's great. If you can figure out a placebo that actually works, then go for it. But you know, it's a tough call when you're going to be spending that much money. And ketones, if you don't use them, do you piss them out? Like how does it affect your body?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, you can quote unquote spill ketones in your urine when you're in ketosis, so that's a thing. But I don't know when you have actual. I don't actually know the answer to that. Like, what happens? I'm assuming you would use it for energy, just given our crazy energy demands while we're running. You know, we're definitely burning through it. But I just, I think this goes back to what we talk about all the time on here, and it's like, don't throw really expensive supplements at your performance until we have completely dialed in the daily nutrition and the performance nutrition, because you're going to get so many more benefits, not just from performance, but from overall health, from paying attention to those two pieces, that throwing an expensive supplement at it isn't going to do much more. Now, if we're at that elite level where everything is dialed in and we want to throw a 1% in there, that makes sense to me. Like, right? You play with it and figure out if it works. There were some accounts of GI distress and nausea from some people taking ketones. So again, it's like, is it worth it? It's not something we would try on race day for the first time or anything like that. But I don't think at this time we have any compelling evidence that we need to be chugging ketones along with our gels at this point.
Okay, I'm going to have you pull up your crystal ball. Do you remember hot shots?
Yes, I do.
Okay, they were supposed to help with cramping because it would shock your brain into not feeling the pain or whatever.
Yeah.
Meg loved those. Okay, pull out your crystal ball here and take a look at this ketone supplement that's very expensive, that possibly could give you GI problems, could possibly not, could possibly help your performance, could possibly not, could fuel it. Where do you see this company in 5 years?
I think because they've pulled in the mental clarity piece, I could see it eventually pulling out of the performance nutrition and more so into that more holistic mental clarity, that type of thing, honestly. I don't know. I'm just not sold that there's going to be the research in this, that people are going to be recommending it, kind of across the board. Yeah.
I certainly... Also, I think I'm a little bit jaded because every time I hear keto, I'm like, that's
she watched me try to do that.
That's the opposite diet that I would ever want to do. So I just see or hear ketone, and I'm like, I'm out. I can't. I don't even want to.
But
totally
it's
agree
not
with
the
you.
diet.
Yeah.
But it's not the diet.
I know, and I understand that this is actually on top of, like, you're not removing carbs. This is just an added thing. But I'm still like, I'm good.
Right.
She saw me eat mayonnaise and pork rinds for a month.
Yeah.
I can't. I just can't. Well, and I think that's why I shied away from ever even researching this for a while, because that was my exact take to this. I was like, oh, God, we're doing this again? Like, we're bringing ketones into the mix? And then when I was like, no, people are truly adding these in addition to, I was like, all right, we gotta chit-chat about this. People are asking questions.
I think that's actually brilliant marketing, because all these people are like, nobody wants to do the work to get into keto. But... they'd be like, oh, I could buy a bottle of ketones and just drink them? That's so American right there.
That is America.
I don't have to do the work, and I can just drink these. Yeah.
Let's jump into another question here, because this one I like because we've done this before. So this is from Anna in Nashville. She says, I love your show. It helped me get over the hump during so many long distance races since I started listening last year. Could you address IV hydration infusions? I just did my first ultra, and most of my runner friends got one before the race. I struggle with hydration and cannot seem to get ahead of it no matter how much scratch, LMNT, blah, blah, blah I consume. But I'm wondering if this would be the clincher. Okay. When I was dealing with my muscle cramps in my legs and thought a component of it was hydration, before a few marathons, when these little IV trucks were like kind of big, they would come to the expos or they'd come to your hotel, wherever. And
we did it at a place though.
We did it at like a store where they hook you up to like a banana bag, an IV bag, and they just drip liquid and electrolytes.
You know,
and
my favorite part of it
vitamins.
When you could start tasting it and you're not it's not going in your mouth. it's going in your vein, but you can
and you like feel it through it was bizarre, but I was convinced that was going to help with the hydration piece. I still got cramps for the most part, so I'm not sure that was the answer, but it was interesting.
I don't think it hurt. I do think it was
I don't think
hydration.
it hurt. Yeah.
Like if you have a hangover, they do these.
Yeah, the people that were in there with us were hungover getting IV bags, so
how'd they feel?
Works for that too.
Did you ask them?
They seemed it's like instant cure.
They seemed great. They were thrilled about it.
They seemed great.
Yeah.
Thrilled. How did
Like,
you feel
to
after?
me,
Did you feel puffy? No.
No, not too much.
No?
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Thomas?
I was trying to remember, like it's a weird feeling because when you, like Meghann said, it's like almost like air conditioning you from the inside because like cold as it goes in, and then you
get cold. Like I had to put a sweatshirt on,
and then you taste it in the back of your mouth. You're
Yeah.
like, I taste the vitamin B and whatever else is in there.
I'm like, why are you tasting it? That's why my face looks like this. I'm like, what are you tasting? But I guess if you're right, if there's a bunch of it's not just. So what I'm thinking of is like a bag of normal saline that they give you when you go to the hospital or something like that. But this has additional things in it also, the B vitamins.
It's almost like
okay.
a smoothie. Like you go and there's like a menu and you're like, what are you getting this for? Like if you want to get rid of your hangover, it's one mix. If you want to
but it's just a bunch of vitamins that you pee out in like the next few hours, which is hilarious.
Oh, exactly.
I mean, possibly, I feel like some of it has to get absorbed, right?
I don't know, Meghann. You tell us what's the deal? Was this a good idea or were we being ridiculous? It's also very expensive. It's like $120 for like one.
I thought.
Okay, IVs. A lot of people get these. I have a former client that owns an IV store, for exactly this type of thing. I think my biggest kind of thought process, I don't want to say issue with this, is I truly, truly believe that with proper hydration, we don't need IVs. I think we should reserve IV hydration for emergency situations where we have heat illness, heat stroke. Like that's what they're going to do for you if you have any type of heat illness in a race, is they're going to hook you up to an IV to rehydrate you quickly. That's typically what we use IV fluids for. We all have functioning GI tracts that can absorb adequate fluid and sodium if we stay on top of it and we do the things. So I really encourage people to do that first. We know about hyperhydration. We know about, having enough fluids before our run, during our run, after our run. And I truly believe that most of us, 99% of us, can keep up with our hydration needs by doing those types of things. Now, I've had plenty of clients, you guys included, that go and get, IVs. So do I think it's the worst thing ever? No. Does it come with a risk? Sure. Anytime you're putting a needle into your vein, you're at a risk of some sort of infection, right? It scares me a little bit that you got to pick what you were putting in your bag. So that's a little might have a risk to it as well, depending on what they put in there. So, I think, my stance is let's save those for emergency situations, right? Or if we've been really, really sick and aren't able to keep fluids down. Obviously, I'd rather you do it at a, urgent care or an ER, not on your own. But if you want to, that would be an option. But taking it a step further and looking at like the legality of this in the sport, right, is it is actually banned for professional athletes to receive IV fluids unless it's an emergency situation. So if you look at like WADA's regulation, they're not allowed to exceed 100 milliliters via IV in a 12-hour period. So you're getting like 2 liters of fluid in an IV. So any type of hydration like that is illegal for pro athletes, which leads me to believe like, oh, does it work then? Right? There's probably other people thinking that too.
Yeah.
Like, oh, does it give you a benefit then?
Or does it flush out?
Right.
Mess with
Any
the
type
tests,
of, yeah.
is what I
right.
would think.
I think that's a possibility as well. So
Meg's pulled up the ingredients.
So you were concerned about the different ones.
taking?
So I went to the place that we went to in Jacksonville, Florida.
And they actually have our menu.
And on the menu, there's Pure Athlete and then there's Pure Party. So in Pure Athlete, it's B12, B complex, and glutathione. Is that
glutathione maybe?
glutathione and BCAA? And then in
weird.
the Pure Party one, it is a B complex, Toradol, Zofran, and Pepsid.
Holy shit, those are drugs. Zofran is nausea, and Toradol is a pain med. That is wild. I don't know how they're allowed to do that.
It's called Pure Party.
It's also
They can do whatever they want.
also in Florida.
How far is this from
It's
Miami
Florida, there's
when
no
we're down
rules.
there? No.
They probably have so many in Miami.
You guys might need it.
I might.
You're gonna be
Zofran
doing
and
Y'all Out Boy
Toradol?
concerts.
I did not know this existed, guys. I'm learning. My mind is blown.
So obviously we didn't do that one. We did
Right.
the athlete one, which is just adding a bunch of B vitamins, which,
Real-
I mean, I don't know what that's going to do.
Real quick, back to your hydration tour. You're going to Y'all Out Boy.
This will have already happened when this airs.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to for the bag. This is for this particular conversation. You're going to Y'all Out Boy in Texas after the hydration tour. Then you're going to Miami. You're probably going to need a hydration bag.
Did you just hear my spiel? If we're hydrating appropriately, we don't need liquid IVs. And then
don't
you're going to
need
see me
it.
hooked up to one. They're going to be like, yo, Meghann, take your own advice.
Yeah, but she'd be like, I couldn't get water with these drugs in it.
Couldn't do it. A long run in Austin, followed by Y'all Out Boy, followed by a long run in Miami. It just might land you there. No, I'm kidding. We're going to have all the scratch, so we don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Hopefully. But like putting it in context, because we talk a lot about like the hyperhydration, and I have a lot of people that are really scared because there's 1,700 milligrams of sodium. Like I literally have people who won't even take it all; they'll split it and take it, like, which we don't need to do. You know, it's if we're sweating a lot, like we're losing that much sodium or more in an hour. But these, if we get a liter or a liter of normal saline, it's like 9 grams, 9,000 milligrams of sodium. So it's like people are so scared to drink certain things. Just putting it in context, right? Like one of these bags of normal saline has a ton of sodium in it. So back to Anna's question, like, would this benefit me to do this before an ultra race? If there is any benefit from it, it's probably that. It's probably that you're like legitimately hyperhydrating. You have more sodium, you have more fluid. Like it's kind of the same concept that we're trying to do with hyperhydration. So, I mean, it makes sense that they might be seeing a benefit here. But again, like, I'm not going to be one to recommend, like, yeah, go get one before your ultra. Like, no, just eat saltier foods. Be smart about your hydration. If you carb load, you can hold on to extra fluid as well. You know, do some of those things. Use our GI tract because it functions, right? We don't necessarily need to be dropping it straight into our veins. And, you know, kind of go from there.
I'm curious, back to the IVs real quick, Meghann. What's the difference of taking in hydration like through the veins versus drinking it? Like, do you absorb it differently or does it stay with you more? Because I feel like they were convincing us that we would almost like hold on to the fluid longer maybe if we took it through the veins, but you tell me.
That's a good question because I honestly don't know if you would hold on to it longer. I have to believe it wouldn't be a whole lot longer. Honestly, our bodies are smart. If we're healthy, you know, if we have extra fluid, we're going to pull it out. We're going to get rid of it. You know, we got kidneys that help us with that. But the one thing about bypassing kind of the gut absorption and dumping it straight into our veins is it doesn't have the same like thirst response, right? Like our thirst will change when we're drinking. So we're kind of bypassing some of those natural mechanisms in our body by putting the fluid straight into our veins. So it does make me wonder if like someone wouldn't get that thirst sensation during their race then if they have taken IV fluids. Like would it mess with that normal feedback response, which I mean, theoretically, it probably would. I don't know how much or if it would be enough to be detrimental at that point or anything. But like, you know, there's a lot of behind the scenes things happening in our body to regulate our hydration, and our thirst is a piece of that. And, you know, how much we pee out extra things. Like there's literally hormones behind the scene doing all of that based on fluid absorption. So if we're putting it straight into our veins, like we're just bypassing all of that. So I don't know.
So that's an interesting question because Meg said that she did do the hydration before a race and she still got cramps.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you drank enough on course?
Well, no, and that was still a point when this was before I was working with you, Meghann, and I wasn't fueling properly. I wasn't hydrating properly. I was, because, you know, doing the easy solution. Oh, I probably don't need to worry about hydrating so much because I'm going to do this IV, and I wasn't doing the proper fueling. And so, yeah, it's not going to work if you're not doing all the the things that you're supposed to be doing in the first place, which was fueling my long runs during training and, you know, hydrating properly and all that stuff.
I mean, that's a good point, too, because, I mean, a liter of fluid is like just over 32 ounces. So if you weren't paying attention to hydration all day and you're like, I'm getting fluid later, like 32 ounces, you know, that's like not even half of what you need for the day. So just doing that, you could have still been like super under on how much fluid you needed. Yeah.
Okay, so you know we've been eating pizzas from our Breville oven.
Yeah, everyone wants to know. It's a Breville oven, people.
And Meghann made dough twice. The first time we had the 001 pizza flour. And the second time we had same brand. It's like, I forget the name of the brand, but it's the same brand, but we just had the regular bread flour.
Mm-hmm. It's King Arthur.
King Arthur flour. And the pizza dough didn't taste as good with just the bread flour.
The pizza flour is where it's at. And it's not even that different. Like the ingredients listed, there's slightly, the second flour was different. But I'm like, I don't know what it is, but it's worth purchasing the pizza flour.
Yeah, so people, if you're going to make a pizza, go buy this pizza flour.
Pizza by King Arthur.
Is it just OO pizza?
Yeah, I think.
So I got a King Arthur catalog in the mail this week. And I opened it like just right to the page of the pizza flour. And I was like, I'm going to send Meg and Thomas some of this for when I'm out there at their house. And then I paused and I was like, I bet Meg already has this. And then I meant to ask you, look, dude, you already have it.
I went ahead and purchased like a case of it.
Yeah, we've got like 5 bags of it at the house now. We're pretty set.
Are you excited to have the pizza?
So excited. So excited I was going to send you pizza flour.
I ended up buying a big fan because the pizza oven kept setting off our fire alarm.
It does because it smokes a lot, so we got to keep that in check.
But can you just take it out onto your like little balcony when it's not too cold out? You know, like now?
We could.
It'd be a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We just opened the window and let a fan.
Yeah, I got a big
Perfect.
fan.
Yeah. All right, people, thank you all for being here and listening to our podcasts. The takeaways today are what? Ketone IQs are
I'd say still up for debate.
Yeah. I wouldn't rush out to chug a bunch. Let's watch some other people and get some more research before we spend our money on it.
Whoa.
Yeah. And similarly with the hydration IVs before a race, you probably should just stick with hydrating properly.
Yeah, save it for emergencies. If you're in an emergency situation, for sure. Like,
This is such a boring show. We tell people common sense stuff.
But they need to know.
I know, but like, wouldn't it be fun if we were like, yeah, ketones will make you a rocket. Just buy that shit, and you will run super fast. And go get a hydration bag, and you will win marathons like Meg and Meghann.
We should do a completely irresponsible podcast where we give the worst possible advice, very like off the cuff.
Eat an entire spiral ham.
Exactly. See what happens. See who listens. They'll take my license away, and then we won't have a podcast. But it might be funny for like a week.
Yeah. On that note,
peas and carrots.
Cheers.
Yeah.
All right.
See
Hey,
you guys
I gotta
out
say
there
something
on the hydration tour.
I feel like thank you, Meghann Feathers, aka Feathers, for knowing so much stuff. And Meg, you're so good at steering the show, like being the little captain of the ship.
Are you just trying to throw some compliments out there?
I am throwing out some compliments.
Okay. All right, we'll take them.
Soak them up. To my beautiful co-hosts.
Okay, wow.
I'll see you in 2 weeks and give you a hug for that.
I know.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. That's all I'm trying for.
Yeah. He wants me to be really nice.
All right.
Show up at his door.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Remember, our goal is not to have a good show. Our goal is to have good outtakes.
I love you.
Nutritional entertainment brought to you by The Drop.
No. First of all, this is Fuel for the Soul. Second of all, can you just do the thing?
Diva. Anyway. Hi.
Hi.
Well, we did buy a lot. We bought a you could be talking to a half billionaire right now.
It's high.
Chances are high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am wearing makeup right now.
It looks good. Whatever the slothing was, you look good. You look all right.
Oh, you didn't plug it in? Hold on.
It went really
Our
dark
light
on
just
you
went
guys.
You could be just drinking cocaine. And you're like, oh, this works really good. I feel mentally clear, and I'm running really fast.
I think that was the last race I wore buns in. I was like walking around downtown Cleveland with like underwear on.
We would have pointed at you.
Like, what's she
Look
doing?
at Speedy over there. I wish somebody would make a potato chip that had all the benefits and none of the negatives of potato chips, because that seems like the perfect. You got the carbs and you got the salt